The child murders of Atlanta, Georgia were 30 years, I don't know, 30 years ago. That's a part of the time when I was retired. They called me unemployed, and I decided to go down to Atlanta because I could stop them. And I knew I could stop them. And I went down to tell them I could stop them. So, at my own expense and my own time, I went down to Atlanta, Georgia, and went into the police station and said, "Are you looking for tips on a murder?" "Of course we are." I said, "I could stop them." And I told them how. And they said, "What?" They said, "What agency, police agency are you with?" I said, "I'm not. I'm a cook." I said, "There's the door." Okay. I went to a gentleman on the newspaper. I went there the day after that this one guy had written a column, and he said in his column, he said a minister came to town and told him the demons were doing it. Well, I went to this guy the next day. Not him, but I asked for him, but he wasn't in, so they gave me a different reporter. And I said, "I come down from St. Louis because I believe I could stop the murders, the killings." He said, "What?" I said, "I believe I could. I have a method to stop the killings." Now, let me explain about these murders of these children. The first 12 children weren't even related to each other. They made this out to be a serial killer who killed 28 people or whatever. The first 12 weren't even, some of them were girls, but you didn't hear about that. Some of them were stabbed, some of them were strangled, some of them were shot, some of them were tortured, but you didn't hear about any of that. All you heard was a sensation, and here's the 14th one. We found it alongside of the road. And the circus started. And I got there when the circus was about, I think it was 17 or 18. And he said, "How do you propose to stop it?" I said, "By surveillance. Have everyone in Atlanta carry a camera. If they see a black child with an adult, snap the picture." He thought for a long time, and he said, "You're right, that would stop it." And then he said something I wouldn't expect. He said, "We don't want to stop them, we want them to keep going. We want to catch them." I was appalled at that one. But anyway, we talked for a while and so forth. And they wanted to catch him. I said, "Well, what kind of clues you got?" I said, "The guy's right-handed. No, the guy who's dumping him out of the ditch is right-handed." "Wow, wow, that doesn't say anything anywhere. What newspaper you been reading?" I said, "Same one you're printing." "Well, how do you conclude they're right-handed? We've never come to that. Nobody's come to that conclusion here." I said, "Well, you had 5 or 6 bodies dumped along a ditch, and all the heads are facing the same way. Now, when a man takes a child from a car or wherever he's carrying it from, he'll put it like this. He'll put the head here and the feet here, and he rolls it in the ditch. The heads are facing that way." Oh, I said, "No, the ones you got in the forest." "Oh, yeah, the ones you got in the forest. You wrote about that. That's a cult. That's a cult." He changed over and he's giving them a cult killing because the hands are stationed above the head. I said, "That's a man doing that. That's not no cult killing." It's one man. How do you come to that conclusion? I said, you got a kid? He said, yeah. I said, go home tonight. Throw your kid over your shoulder. Take her and throw her on the bed. See where the arms go. I said, that's a man carrying a body into the forest, and he's thrown it out. And that's where the arms are landing. And all the reporters just say, no, that's a cult killing, cult killing, cult killing. And we went through a few more little things. And at that time, Sammy Davis, Frank Sinatra mainly, Sammy Davis, Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, Dean Martin, they all come to town to do a benefit for the families of the kids who got killed. And they all got in this auditorium, and all these families were in the front row, dressed in their niceties. I imagine I wasn't there. And the families all received, I think it was $11,000 a family. And I said, I said, it looks like you're encouraging families, people with large families, to send their kids out to the street to play so they can cash in on that. And he stopped talking to me. Just stop. He's mad. No, you can't come down here and insult us like that. Yeah, well, so I came back to St. Louis, and here's where I got proof that this all happened and that I used the camera idea. And my story was written up in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the St. Louis Globe Democrat, both newspapers. And several months later, a prominent citizen of St. Louis came to me and said, they're using your idea. I said, what? They said cameras. He said, there's a town in Florida that's having a problem, and they're putting cameras on the street corner to catch them. First use of surveillance cameras. A town in Florida. After that, I think London took it up, and I think after London took it up, I think it spread like wildfire. Today, there's 1,000,000-something surveillance cameras in the United States working 24/7. If Al Gore can invent the internet, I can invent the surveillance camera. But anyway, they finally caught somebody killing people, and I think it was 8, 9 more bodies after I was down there until they caught them. Then if they would have used a surveillance camera or something, it may have been 3 more bodies before they caught them. But I was a cook. The police, they didn't even want to listen. Get out of here, you damn cook. I guess they thought that I hitched a ride down there or something. I don't know. But sometimes I wonder, would those kids have lived had they caught on to that? I came back to St. Louis and I called the president of Eastman Kodak. So help me God. I forgot his name. It was Conrad or something like that. I don't know. Conrad or something. And I told him my idea. I'd have everybody carry a camera. I went to Eastman and put the film in there for nothing. I said, I'll go back and I'll manage the program. He said, I'll call you back. He called me back and he said, that's a very good idea, but we can't use it. I said, why? He said, well, we had a board of directors meeting and the consensus was that we would be cashing in publicity-wise on an adverse situation, which I understood immediately. I understood what he was talking about. But what a shame. People are the price tag of progress. Yes, they are. Anyway, that's another one that fell flat. Another one that fell flat was, I got a little blog on it when I mentioned it's California wildfires. I kept reading about these wildfires striking the timber and burning. I said, well, let's stop that. Benjamin Franklin's most popular convention was a lightning rod, and he never made a dime off of it. He gave it to the people of Philadelphia because they were all living in wooden houses, and the lightning was striking the wooden houses, catching them on fire, and blocks and blocks. The city were burning down every time they had a lightning storm. So he gave it to the people of Philadelphia. So I wrote to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I said, I have an idea that will stop wildfires if you're interested. I get a letter back and said, it's not my job. Get a hold of the forest department. Of course, he didn't tell me the address. He didn't tell me the phone number. He didn't tell me anything about the forest department. But I'm fairly sure that would work. Because I remember when I was a kid, some kid about my age got killed because he was playing golf in the rain. And he ran under a tree, and the lightning went underneath that tree to hit that golf club and killed him. Maybe I wouldn't remember it if he wasn't close to my age. I didn't know the kid, but that happened. So that stuck with me. If a lightning bolt will go after a golf club, why won't it go after a lightning rod standing up in the air rather than some dry timber sitting on the ground? Not long ago, I stopped at a fire station here in Houston. I won't say which one. The guy was on duty and said, I've got an idea to stop the forest fires. I had just watched the service for the 17 men in Arizona. And I wanted to do something. And he said, that's not my job. We don't have forest fires around here. I think that man heard some words that maybe he never heard before. But here again, I take this to the people. Do me a favor. Call your local fire station and give them that idea. If we get a lot of people calling the fire station and give that idea, some bright guy at the fire station is going to say, hey, why don't we try that sometime? Let's collect the money and do that. But here again, people are the price tag of progress. Arnold wasn't interested. If Arnold would have said okay and sent me the name of the forestry and so forth, and I contacted them, maybe they wouldn't have all those fires in California. I didn't realize that Arizona had that many fires. I sure contacted her. I like that governor of Arizona. But anyway, that's another one gone by the wayside. There are a few more I can't think of. I don't know if I cut the tape the other day. I have a lot of ideas that fall flat, But to me, they're grand ideas. Uh, when I lived in Vegas, the Miss Universe contest was there. That's a Donald Trump organization. And I looked up, see who was representing the United States, and it was L.A. Laundry, I think her name is. There's a whole restaurant chain with that last name. They're all fish houses, I believe. And I contacted her and I said, "What are you wearing to the dress contest for the what are you representing our country? The dress? Oh, a Southern Belle." I said, "Well, what do you think the people in the Northwest think about that?" "Well, I don't know, but I'm wearing the Southern Belle." I said, "You want to wear the universal dress for the American person?" She said, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Levi's. Denim. Denim slacks and a white shirt and white sneakers." I said, "Walk out on a stage like that and you will be remembered forever as setting the tone of the national dress for people." She took it to the committee and they wouldn't let her do it. Well, maybe it was for the better. She ended up winning the contest, the Miss Universe contest this year. But had she strutted out there with a pair of Levi, because boy, there's nothing more sexy than a gal with a good shape with a pair of Levi. You know, they got to lay down and put those things on to zip them up. They lay on the floor to zip them up. They're so damn tight. She'd have knocked the socks off everybody and they'd remember her forever. I can't even remember what year that was, but she could have made a statement and she passed that up. I called the Levi Strauss people and said, Miss America's trying to dump the swimsuit contest. Why don't you push for a Levi? That's a wonderful idea. But it's too commercial for us. They blame us for being too commercial. I said, hell, then open it up to everybody else. Open it up to Jarnash, to Lee. Open it up. Have 25 different kinds of Levi's. Have them all fighting over what girl's going to wear their brand. I said, man, that'd be some fun. Rather than have these overstuffed dolls who are filled with cotton these days out there showing off a swimsuit that's not covering all of them. It's covering whatever part they had added to their bodies. So we can't do that. Sometime I think I was born a little too soon. I read in this book here, I think there was a paragraph in it, I don't know where I read it recently, about ugly babies. It was on Fox and Friends. No, not Fox and Friends, The Five on Fox, talking about ugly babies. And I raised my hand and I said, that's me. When I was born on my grandfather's birthday. And apparently I was one ugly child. Everybody who come in the room said, my God, that kid's ugly. And my grandfather's sister walked in the room and took one look at me and said, looks just like his grandmother. My grandfather's sister, we called her Aunt Selma, and Nanny, that was my grandmother. We called her Nanny. Never spoke for 25 years. That's how ugly I was. So I got the old cart moving back then. So, and Anyway, those are a few things that I've tried. I just had to throw in that one about the ugly because they were just discussing that last night, and I raised my hand when they said ugly child. I said, there I am right there. I'm right in the middle of it. But there's other things that I've tried that simply didn't work. They were damn good ideas. I started out working at a bakery when I was 8 years old. I started out working after school and on Saturdays. I made $1 a day after school and $2 on Saturday. On Saturday, I went to work at 3 o'clock in the morning and worked till I was finished. Wasn't no such thing as an 8-hour day. I worked until the bakery was cleaned up. I carried heavy sacks of flour up the steps, more than I weighed. That's why I'm bound to these wheelchairs and I can't stand or walk very well. I got 2 power chairs. I got a scooter, a little runaround that I use around the house, and I have this big scooter that I go to the store and the other one's charging up right now. But anyway, my back's killing me. I don't think I'm going to live very long. Let me tell you about the time that I died in Las Vegas. You can hang up anytime you want. I don't care. If you want to listen to this, fine. If you don't, that's the way it goes. I ate at a fast food restaurant and got ptomaine poison. And I went home and threw up. And I threw up. And I threw up. And I threw up. I threw up so hard that I split or ruptured the wall of my stomach. And then I was throwing up blood. And when my roommate came home from Area 51, I said, I have to go. I had checked with my local gal at the VA, and she said I could go to the hospital. You got to get permission. I said, I have to go to the hospital. I'm dying. But I want to go there. So we jumped in the car and we went there. And on the way, I said, here's a credit card. I take when I die, take $300 and send my cat to my daughter in Houston, Texas. And he wheeled me into the ER room. And I remember going through the big doors and I was gone. And my roommate said, shall I wait for him? And the guy said, wait for him. And buddy, it's going to be a while. I'll make out the paperwork. He's dead. I says, we'll tell you when I call the coroner to come get him. Give us your phone number. So they gave him my phone. They gave him his phone number. He gave them his phone number. And they checked me, and I woke up in ER, and I had 6 or 7 medics working on me, putting blood in one arm, taking it on the other, and one arm taking it on the other. And they do that to make sure that your corpuscle count in the blood, because all blood plasma bags are different, that it don't come one wild with one or something. And then they sent me up after 12 hours at ER working on me. They sent me up to intensive care. From intensive care, went to room to room to room. Ended up in a psycho ward. I refused to stay there, so that I ended up in a room with 4 guys. And when I got released from the hospital, I called the guy I was living with, and I said, come get me. He said, where you at, heaven or hell? He said, they told me you were dead. I said, I'm not dead, come get me. I'm at the same hospital you left me at. So he come get me, and on the way home, and he said, well, I got some bad news. I said, what, you sent my cat away? He said, no. He said, I maxed out all your credit cards. I thought you were dead. I think I laughed all the way home. He said, aren't you mad? I said, I'm not mad. You know, I live with you. I said, I'm just not going to pay your rent until I make my money up. I went back to that hospital about 3 weeks later. I went back to see Father McNutty, I'm not Catholic, but he and I become great friends. I went back to see him, and I went back to ask a few questions. I went on the ER, and I saw one of the guys that was working on me. I said, how come I was in ER 12 hours? You don't keep people in ER 12 hours. He said, truthfully? I said, yeah. I didn't come down here to have you lie to me. He said, you were dead when you come in here. He said, we just wanted to see if we could bring you back, and we did. And I said, why 12 hours? He said, well, that's how long it took. I said, so you left me down here for 12 hours? He said, yeah. He said, normally we'd send you upstairs. He said, but we thought you were going to die, so we kept you down here that long, because if you would have died down here, it's easier to ship you out the back door than it is to help make out all that paperwork upstairs. So that was my thrill at the hospital on that stay. But I like to tell that story, but he cashed out all my credit cards. He was an avid gambler, possibly still is. I hope not, but probably still is. Anyway, I have a lot of things. I wrote every senator in the United States Senate 7, 8 years ago, individually typed letters, their name on it, their name in the body of the letter, and so forth. That why God should be a generic word. If it's a generic, it's our language. We can make God any kind of word we want to make it. And if we make it a generic word, then the atheists and the Muslims and everyone can't say, that offends me. Because the word generic means without trademark. So when they use the word God, it doesn't offend me because it's aimed at me. But it could be a generic word for them. And then we'll stop all this bullshit that comes up every year. In God we trust, it's got to come off our money. You can't put this in our city hall. You can't put this manger on Christmas. You can't have Santa Claus. Bullmanor. Make it a generic word. When Tom and his friends sat down and wrote all them fancy papers when we separated from England, they didn't want us to be like England. In England, when Henry VIII wanted to behead a few wives, he had to go to the head of the church to get permission. Well, he wanted the church here to stand alone, and he wanted us to stand alone. Therefore, they got the thing, there's nothing between church and state. And when we fought the revolution, the priest in he said, get over there and sing your songs and give your amens, and we'll win this war. So the church and the state have always been separated. I don't know why some people can't look at a cross without getting upset. I think they're guilty. I don't know. Anyway, I wrote every senator. I got 3 answers back. This was long before he decided to run for president, either one of them. I got John McCain, his friend Joe, the guy who switched parties and he ran on a Democratic ticket with somebody, his vice president. I got one back from my own Senator Harry Reid, but all I got from him was a stack of papers, no cover address or anything, just some stuff I should read. And a senator in Texas wrote me. I wish I knew his name. I was always impressed that a senator in Texas would write me out in Las Vegas. But anyway, I've done a lot of things like that. Tried them. Doesn't hurt to try. Ran into brick walls. I'm just not smart enough to stop. That's why I kept going until I found the perfect solution of the homosexual mind. Why? And I'm the only one who has got the why. And you want to know something? None of the scholars are going to give a damn. Anyway, I hope you do, and I hope you tell all your family. If you get pregnant, this is what you do. Da 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 da. This is what you don't do. Dee 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 dee. Have a good evening, and God bless. And remember, if you're only 5 minutes early for work, you're already too late.